It's hard enough to stay sober, but try doing it in college. On the plus side, it's a lot easier to fight off asshole frat boy. Shit, gotta go!
Come take a ride with me on my magical semi-invisible truck to experience, well, yet another zombie survival game. One that's also funded by Microsoft as one of the Xbox One's highlighted exclusives for 2018. As you could probably guess by the 2 in the name, it's actually a sequel to a fairly successful Xbox 360 indie title that managed to garner a cult following. So, now on a more powerful system and with the backing of a major publisher behind it, can this title go further than its predecessor? Welcome to MojoPlays, and this is our review of State of Decay 2.
No more army, huh? So, how do we survive now?
Hey, come on. As long as we're together, we can make it through anything.
Before we begin, be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays and click on the links in the description to vote on upcoming content. And we're not off to a good start. Despite said backing from Microsoft, State of Decay 2's presentation leaves a lot to be desired. Playing it on PC, even at ultra settings, the game had a distinct last-gen kind of look to it, with rough lighting, ugly character models, bland-looking structures, and a lot of pop-in, just to name a few issues. To make matters worse, even on a fairly strong rig that can handle ultra settings fine for much better looking games, this game still struggled to run at a steady frame rate. But even if you're able to look past the dated visuals, you still have to contend with the frequent occurrence of bugs and glitches, with an unfortunate emphasis on frequent. Collision detection issues are numerous, and I know zombies are supposed to be brainless, but come on, this is just ridiculous. While some of these glitches may be excused as kind of funny, it's not so funny when they start affecting your play session. Issues we encountered ranged from missions that suddenly stopped running for no reason, on-screen prompts that failed to appear, and controls that would simply not respond. The last 2 examples, by the way, requiring a hard quit using the task manager.
You can feel it, right? People getting pissed.
I mean, the first State of Decay had technical issues too, but given the higher profile of this release, this feels less excusable. A patch was released just prior to the embargo lifting, so while some of these issues may have been fixed, we are still encountering major problems.
So, where was I? Ah, yes. Shit. Gotta go! So, where was I? Shit. Gotta go!
Well, I guess it's time to talk about the actual game now, eh? The story, if you can call it that, has you play as a series of randomly generated characters, each with their own strengths and weaknesses, along with their own backstories. In a world that's been overtaken by the living dead, it's up to you to find other survivors and do what you can to stave off death. And, well, that's kind of it, really. While there is a setup and a handful of characters with unique personalities, there's not much by ways of story or narrative. In fact, the lion's share of the narrative happens in the background, over radio chatter, with the majority of what's being said being completely unrelated to what's actually happening on screen in your game.
I'm desperately hoping that someone out there can provide information on my missing troops.
I'm your Huckleberry.
Who is this?
My name is Kelly Eldridge III, but you can call me Sasquatch.
So, instead of weaving a complex tale, the goal of the game is more about building up your community to have a major legacy in the world. And you do this by powering up one of your characters to the point where he or she can be appointed community leader. After this happens, you have to fulfill that character's wishes, which usually involves completing more quests for them. And when you do so, you have successfully left their legacy on the world, and you quote-unquote win the game.
It needs new just about everything, but it might be the right place for us.
State of Decay does actually implement its survival mechanics pretty well, resource consumption rates are very well balanced, and it can be pretty immersive to have your party take turns to prepare what they need to venture out into the dangerous world, while others stay behind to tend to your base's needs. Some organizing mechanics have also been streamlined to be more manageable without feeling too casualized, and thankfully it takes very little time to get into a comfortable gameplay loop.
Fears, man. We're making it through.
Characters also frequently level up the more you use them using a kind of old school progression system. You run for a certain distance, your cardio improves, you kill a group of enemies in melee combat, your fighting skill improves, search a lot of containers, yeah, you get the idea, right? Of course, just like in the first State of Decay, the most standout feature is the use of permadeath for your characters, and this does do a good job at raising tensions. If you lose a character out there in the world, you also lose any progression you made on them, and you can't revert back to a previous save file to undo your boo-boo. Believe me, it can get pretty demoralizing when you lose some of your strongest characters, or worse, the party leader. As such, it is often a good idea to take an ally with you to watch your back as you go out into the dangerous zombie-infested world. But unfortunately, this is where State of Decay shows its lousier side, as missions almost always involve collecting major supplies in rucksacks to keep your group alive. Which, wouldn't be so bad on its own if it wasn't for the fact that you find yourself doing this same task over and over again. Even worse is that the buildings you're in often repeat the exact same interior designs and floor plans, which makes the experience of exploring feel repetitive after a short while. Though there will be moments where you meet other survivors while you're on a sortie, they'll often want to be escorted to a random location on the map, ask to be given certain supplies, or just want to trade with you. While some will actually be hostile towards you, cases like that are actually few and far between too. Perhaps the most tedious new addition in this sequel is the introduction of plague zombies and plague hearts. Plague hearts are these giant organic web things that spawn plague zombies, and one of the major requirements of the game has you destroying these. But that often means just pumping them full of your already limited ammunition, or throwing a lot of explosives at them. It's dull the first time you take out these stationary bullet sponges, what with their only defense being to spawn more plague zombies, and it really doesn't get much better after the 5th or 10th time you do it either.
That's another one down.
Which also brings us to the next problem, enemy spawn rates. Simply put, it's very aggressive, and at times it can feel like you've cleared out an area only to suddenly turn around and see more zombies coming at you. Even more annoying is when it seemingly spawns unique variant zombies right in your path very close to your home base. While they can be very challenging to take down and do give you strong influence as a reward, which is the game's currency for taking more outposts, what can make them very annoying to engage is your allies' AI. You see, your partner will often charge enemies even if they're in poor condition for battle, which often leads them to getting in the way of your line of fire if you're using a gun, or they just simply get overwhelmed. The game does have a cooperative mode, though it only lets you play with someone who's on your friends list, and the matchmaking systems that are in the game don't really allow you to play the game in its entirety with a stranger. We were actually provided with only one code prior to launch, so we were unable to test this feature. Using the built-in features to send out flares or offer volunteer work for other players also came up with nothing, unfortunately. But again, since this was prior to the full retail release, these features may function better once a large amount of people are playing.
Hey, look at the dead slackjaws.
Thank the powers that be, it is over. It is us or them, friend.
So, where was I? Shit. Gotta go!
State of Decay 2 makes a lot of promise with its immersive gameplay loop, but it ends up falling flat due to tedium not only from its limited variety, but also from the fact that you're highly susceptible to losing progress due to bugs or bad AI. And with the game already in such a broken state, that is quite simply unacceptable for such a high-profile release. The most dedicated survival fans may get enjoyment out of it, and it's certainly worth checking out if you have an Xbox Game Pass, but for everyone else, even at the reduced $30 price, it's hard to recommend this title over so many other options in such an oversaturated market of survival games.
So, where was I? Ah, yes. On the plus side, it was a lot easier to fight off asshole frat boys trying to pull shit. Gotta go!
Thanks for watching Mojo Plays. Be sure to subscribe and click on the link in the description below to check out our suggestion page and vote on what content you'd like to see us cover next.